talk about our new schedule starting next week onwards, inshallah. We'll probably switch back to weekday evening as we used to do before Ramadan. So we are going to get started. Inshallah, Dr. Yamina is here. She's going to be again leading us in today's study. And then I think we also have, if anyone wants to share anything about the texts for today, you're welcome to share your reflections as well. Dr. Yamina, if you could just make me co-host so I can show the text. And thank you. Jazakallah khair. Dr. Yamina, are you muted? Yes. We don't hear you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
I was not sure we had started.
Okay, sorry. So Bismillah, inshallah we can start.
Okay, thank you. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I wanted to start with Salat Tafrijiyya. Tafrijiyya is from Faraj, relief, and it's Salat ala Nabi. You can find it also in the booklet where the Jawshan al-Kabir is. It's in Dala'il al-Nur towards the end. I don't have numbers in my book, page numbers. So there is a short salat before that, which is Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin tabb al-qulubi wa dawa'iha وعافية الأبدان وشفائها ونور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Then comes the Salat al-Tafrijiyya, which is well known. People distribute it and they recite it all together, I mean separately, but people, and the number is 4,444. اللهم صل صلاة كاملة وسلم سلاما تاما على سيدنا محمد الذي تنحل به العقد وتنفرج به الكرب وتقضى به الحوائج وتنال به الرغائب وحسن الخواتم ويستسقى الغمام بوجهه الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه في كل لمحة ونفس بعدد كل معلوم لك, which means, O God, send a perfect prayer and complete greetings of peace upon our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the one by whom problems are solved and anxieties are relieved and needs are fulfilled and aspirations are attained and good endings are received, and by whose noble face the clouds give rain, and upon his family and companions with every glance and every breath by the number of everything that is known to you. So there are two, I'm looking at, before the 28th, we are at the 28th window, which starts with an ayah from Surah Al-Rum, Surah 30. But there were some questions related to some topics that I vaguely remember, I'm not quite sure. To do with tafakkur and reflecting and contemplation in our life. I'm trying to look at what, Isra, you have put the 28th window at the beginning because I had put the passages from the Al-Matnawi first, and then if you go below, you will find that I also put the 28th window last Saturday, inshallah. And I highlighted some, if you go down, yeah, you see. So you have put one and I have put one. Alhamdulillah. So it's up to everyone. Shall we start with the 28 window, or shall we read those passages that are related to reflection and contemplation? No answer?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This the text that you have selected in addition to the window, they seem to be denser texts.
We don't have to go in detail.
Yeah, and we could start with them or we could end with them. So I don't know where to go.
Let's start with them.
Sister Yamina, if it helps, reflecting first, inshallah, let's do that first.
Okay. Because usually at the end, you don't find the time, so it makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe someone can read, and each paragraph, read the paragraph, we go through the meaning. If there is any question, there's no question, we pass, inshallah. Because as Isra said, these are, each of these paragraphs has been explained in some other place in the Risale Nur, but here it's good because we can get many topics condensed. So anyone reading? Otherwise,
I'll volunteer, Dr. Yamina. This is Meher. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you, Meher.
No, oh friend, that solid material and corporeal things are acted on and affected by immaterial things or things of light. Look at sunlight and a mountain. The former comes from the sky and operates on earth freely, while the latter, despite its huge size, can do nothing and has no effect on its environment. The subtler and more composed of light something is, the more effective and active it is. The more material and solid something is, the more susceptible it is to being acted upon and affected. We can conclude from this that the creator of causes and effects is he who is the light and who is the light of lights. Do you want me to read these ayahs as well?
Yes, please. It's part of it.
Okay. Nothing is like him. He is the all-hearing, the all-seeing. Vision comprehends him, but not. Okay. Vision comprehends him not, but he comprehends all vision. He is the all-subtle, the all-aware.
Thank you. So here it's something that maybe we did discuss sometimes, not as a topic in its own, but like in passing, which is something that for a long time always attracted my attention, because in ghafla, which seems to us like common sense, when we have not been through the tarbiyah, the education, of the Quran, and our reasoning, our perception, our feelings have not been educated through the education of the Quran, then what we see, we think it is the reality. So there is no, the fact and our perception are totally confused, because we are not aware, because we are in ghafla. And if we start waking up, because some people wake up a little bit and they think they are differentiating between facts and perception, but still that fact, its true interpretation, we cannot reach it, because we're part of the fact, we're part of the creation. Only the maker can make his purpose known to us. So that's the waking up is the time when we realize we feel the need for guidance, for enlightenment, for someone to show us, to put light on the darkness. We realize that everything is dark as far as meaning and purpose is concerned. But when we are in ghafla, it seems like the more solid, the less abstract, the more real it is. I can touch it, I can see it, I can smell it, that's how it feels. And that's how we learn at school, because the science and all the sciences are based on these assumption, which is an assumption, a shirki assumption, that this is the reality. But in fact, even in material things, without going further into meaning and things, what this paragraph is saying, the more immaterial something is, the more subtle it is, the subtler, the more effective and active it is. So light reaches everywhere, unlike a huge chain of mountains, for instance. And of course, this is also the soul, the heart also is more active than the physical body. But it feels like, no, the physical body does things, creates things. But what will we say, look at this table, a carpenter made it. Yes, but that carpenter, if he had no consciousness and no mind and no imagination, he wouldn't know what to do with his hands. So he cut it and made it according to something that was already, he was inspired with. If he could not imagine it, he would not be able to make it. So even solid things, they first exist as meaning, as an idea, before they become. But this is not something that we can understand intellectually. So I'm inviting you to just take this idea and sit with it and reflect. Just sit and reflect until you start seeing that, yes, the world, what we call reality, is not what we think it is at first sight. If there is no comment or question, we can carry on. And of course, when it comes to God, God is the lights of lights, is like beyond any matter. Matter is what he's his creation. Then, of course, we start getting an inkling. It's not hasha, it's like God is beyond any comparison. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى, as we are told in the Quran. But we start waking up to at least what is not reality. La ilaha starts becoming more of a real experience. Shall we carry on, inshallah?
Sister Yamina, how do we bring it to ourselves? Like when we see other things, it's easier to see cause and effect. And so how to bring that to our being, basically?
Can you make it more specific? Like, how is it easy to see it out there?
It's out there. You are like last time we mentioned the example of plant. Like you were saying, you were out with Isra and you could see the plants were in the sun, were flourishing. The one in the shade were not flourishing. So you could see the cause and effect directly. So, but then we are stuck there. Then that's how we have been raised, seeing the cause and effect. But even in the sun, if it was not kun fayakun, it wouldn't have happened. So that's there, but how to apply it in our as we approach ourselves day-to-day life, like just getting up in the morning. So bring that reflection to ourselves. Like, we are seeing outside, it makes sense because we are seeing cause and effect. But when it comes to ourselves, I don't think we don't reflect that much. We are on a...
We are coming there actually. That we need to reflect more in ourselves than the outer world. The outer world, it's not that we are not going to reflect. We are going to reflect, but it does not mean that it becomes our career. Because then if we make it, that's your job. For instance, you're a scientist, but even if it's your job, let's not say that I am reflecting. No, you are not reflecting. You just like someone is a cook, you are working in a lab. You can make it part of your reflection, but whatever you reflect in the world, immediately it has to have a projection and reflection within the self. Why? Because if the self does not submit, if the ego still claims rububiyah, claims independence from its Rabb, then that person, I will never truly know my Rabb because I am not accepting the fact that I am being sustained here and now. So, of course, going back each time and applying whatever we learned outside, for instance, La ilaha illallah, it's always going to boil down to La ilaha illallah. La razzaqa illallah. La khaliqa, there is no maker, no creator, no sustainer, no provider, except, let's call that, because we are going to get to know God, Allah, is the one who is in control of everything. It's also today's window, subhanallah. So he can only be one who has control over everything. And how do we confirm that? In our inner world. If we don't confirm it in our inner world, we can claim whatever we want outside. Tawheed will not be, how do you say? The light of Tawheed will not be on, because the source of the shirk is inside. So it will come there. But here, for instance, you said when we wake up. So I remember this morning when I was waking up, and because of Ramadan, so there is, I woke up as if I am going to woke up earlier than the Fajr. So I was like, really, my head is like still sleepy, but subhanallah. So I was surprised. How could I, from sleep, hear something? First, you are asleep and you hear the alarm. And in this case, it was not even an alarm, it was a biological clock. I woke up before the alarm. Subhanallah. So I cannot claim. So I was sitting and I was like at all, because I could not even like say, yes, I'm used to it, I'm doing it, I heard it. Even how can I hear? How can I see? So it's the same thing that I always say, like I am not breathing right now. In ghafla, I'm breathing. Of course, I'm breathing. It's not someone else breathing. In that case, yes. But how am I breathing? I don't know. I am made to breathe, and I witness that I'm made to breathe. I am made to hear. The moment we pause and question, it becomes clear. So there, I am made to wake up, although I thought I was very tired and very sleepy. Because yesterday I did some physical work that I'm not used to. And second, I thought that I was like a piece of wood on the bed, but I woke up and I stood up, like I first sat and then stood up. Subhanallah, how does this body sit? I just want to sit and it sits. I want to stand up and it stands up. Clearly, I am made to breathe. I am given life. I am made to hear. I am made to wake up. I am made to sit. I am made to stand up. So clearly there I can witness the rububiyah within, like my ubudiyah, my powerlessness, my vulnerability is the mirror to rububiyah. When I acknowledge it, when I become aware of it and acknowledge it and accept it and revel in it, because alhamdulillah that things are not left to my hand. Alhamdulillah that the one who is taking care of me is the one who has control over everything. He is the all generous, the all compassionate, the all powerful, because he could be compassionate, but he doesn't have the power to do it. He's the all powerful. Then it brings peace and relief, and the heart expands and iman increases. That acceptance of that fact, it becomes our ubudiyah as an answer to the rububiyah that we are benefiting from.
Jazakallah khair for explaining. And I think if we do this practice every day, we won't be, we usually wake up when something is snatched away from us, when that nema is taken away. I think so we should not wait for those moments.
Yes. Alhamdulillah. Yes. So, Mahal, will you carry on reading, inshallah?
Inshallah, yes.
Dr. Yamina, I wanted to add something to what Riba asked. You also had mentioned before that because of this point here, that there's the hadith that says the intention of the believer is better than their action, because there's so much we can do in terms of acts, and inshallah we should put things into practice, but intention is much larger than that, and it reminds me of the sunlight here.
And also because intention is my choice, my will. Action is also my choice, but like I'm totally free in intention. But in action, sometimes I'm limited by my health, by my wealth, by my conditions. So if Allah wills, if I insist, there will be a way, but still the action, there is part of it from me and most of it from God. But the intention is more like what I want to do.
And also intention is also the one that makes a difference in the action, because the same action done with
exactly, yes,
intention,
like alchemy changes. The same action becomes very, very meaningful.
And
becomes ibadah when it could be something that boosts the ego.
I mean, today somebody in some group shared a problem, and what could I do, she said, in that problem. And the first thing that came to my mind was to pray, but I knew if I wrote that, it would look like, you have nothing to do, because it seems like prayer is the last resort. But I felt that, I don't always feel like that way, but I felt the strongest thing about it, because, and again, in the initial sense, it doesn't look like that. It looks like intention is the weakest thing you can do. But actually, when we intend, the doors open and things are facilitated.
And then you become open to receive the guidance, the inspiration, and then the intentional prayer and word praying in words becomes fi'li prayer. Remember when we did the dua? Acting on that intention is also part of the prayer. But sometimes we don't know, and when we don't know, we are just like someone in the darkness, like trying this, trying that, and we waste time. But when we take the time to stop and pray and intend that intention clarify our inner channel, the heart and the soul, they become more aligned, more open to receive guidance, to receive inspiration. The inspiration becomes clearer and clearer, because otherwise inspiration is there, but it seems like something very far, not clear. I don't know exactly what to do. In fact, it's not that we don't know exactly what to do. We think we know, or we are panicking about, I don't know, I should know. When we say, I don't know, and my Rabb knows, let's listen, then often we receive the inspiration and act, and those actions, those inspired actions, are often the shortest cut, because we cannot control the conditions. Someone who is in control will show us, or will inspire us to the best way. He even inspires the bee to make honey. Why not ourselves? And the more we practice it, the more we can witness that this is haqq.
I've got a question along the lines of intentions. So don't our intentions have to be pure? Because if we are making an intention, say, I want to seem generous, so I am going to be donating this money to this cause or that cause, or do this or do that, but it's my intention isn't truly to help anyone. My intention is just to seem generous.
And you get it according. That's why Isra said intention, because intention is important. That's why I said it's like alchemy. It can, the myth about alchemy is like rocks can be transformed into gold.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to intention, or spiritually, like Imam Ghazali, rahimahullah, he uses al-kimya al-sa'ada. Al-kimya in Arabic, chemistry or alchemy, is used in a spiritual way, because with the intention, something that is not worth much, for instance, even if you don't intend to look generous, you intend to get some risk, some providence for yourself, and you may be guided to it. But as we are told in the Quran, you get fi dunya hasana, goodness in the world, and without the goodness in the everlasting goodness in the afterlife. So it's up to our intention. And intention, when we intend for God, for akhirah, it does not mean that there will be nothing here, because the witness is here in this world. So it's not nothing to do with what's going in the world. It's how we are looking at it and perceiving it, and what our goal is.
And I think you just gave me the key. Is it's keeping Allah in the forefront of your mind or in your consciousness when you make an intention. It isn't coming from the ego, but it is focused on, what is it my Lord or my Rabb wants, and what am I doing?
Eventually, yes, that's what we want to reach. Because in the beginning, we say, can you give me this? So for instance, can you give me more wealth so I can be generous to others? Mm-hmm. So I still want something good, and I'm still wanting it from God. So it's better than many other more selfish things. But I'm still missing that. I'm still assuming that I know what is better, as if those people who are in need, they have to have it through me. Maybe Allah will give them in other ways and give me also in other ways. So it's good to want to help, but how? There's no need to specify the how. You want to help? Good. It means you want to be a mirror to the name helper, the name generous. In what ways? in the beginning we specify, afterwards even when we specify, we become aware that this is how it feels to me right now, but I'm open to your will, whether it happens this way or in another way, because somehow we live in the world. So sometimes we are taking action according to what we think is the right thing until we become, but meanwhile, if we do the work of listening, so the meditation is about listening and receiving, then either we will realize that our first intention was not the right one, or at least we are open to everything else, to whatever God wills for us. And so we are not frustrated when what we wanted does not happen. We did actually talk about this in when we talked about dua, prayer, supplication prayer. Yeah, so intention is important, and intention is going to evolve as our ubudiyah, our awareness of ubudiyah increases, inshallah.
Okay, thank you. Know, O friend, that reflecting, tafakkur, on creation and God's signs in the universe is like light, for it removes or melts your frozen heedlessness, ghafla, and unawareness of Allah. Being careful and attentive, ta'ammul, is like fire, for it burns the illusions, awham, of doubt and suspicion about Allah. However, when you reflect on yourself and on your inner world, feelings, emotions, faculties, and consciousness, or conscious, reflect deeply and thoroughly as the divine name, the inward, wants you to do so. The perfection of art is seen in its details and ramifications. When you reflect on the outer world, do so briefly and superficially, for you only need to understand the foundations upon which it is based. This is what the name, the outward, requires, for the splendor of art becomes more evident and more dazzling when looked on and examined as a whole. Do you want me to continue to the rest?
I think we can stop here.
Yeah, that's a lot right here.
Sorry. So it says, know, friend, that tafakkur, so reflecting on God's signs, so reflecting on God's signs in the outer world. These windows are about this. The ayah at the beginning was to reflect. We were told to reflect that God has put his signs in the outer world and within ourselves. And the and there in Arabic, and means also and therefore. So it's not in the world and totally, how do you say, disconnectedly in yourselves. No. The two are related, because who is looking at the world out there? Who is appreciating? Who is liking or disliking? Who is relating? Who is perceiving? It's me. So the first step is we are totally unaware of the observer, and it seems like I'm seeing something out there. And one example that always attracted my attention for a long time was, for instance, there is a piece of, let's say, cake. It happened to me once, many times. The piece of cake is there, and for me, or any food, and for me, it looks like this is delicious. And that delicious looks totally objective to me. So when I see someone who doesn't like it, in the beginning, I was like, so surprised, how come this is delicious? And then stopped, and so it is not delicious for everyone. What makes it delicious to me is some kind of affinity, some kind of connection, some kind of need for their food, the hunger, because I remember once it was someone brought some pie, I don't know if it was a pie or a cake, I forgot now, and it was so delicious that, and I couldn't eat more, and it was Ramadan a few years ago. So I took a piece with me, and at night when I came back home, I was having a hot drink, and I wanted to have some of that, and it did not taste at all as it tasted a few hours before. I don't know if it was because I was hungrier or whatever the reason, it's not important. The same thing. So the same food is delicious to me, not delicious to someone else. There are things that we love and others dislike. But even the same food, I may like it today and not tomorrow. Maybe because hunger is also because our needs are the key to unlock the treasures of the beautiful names that are manifesting in the world. And sometimes there are food that I disliked as a kid and now I like. Maybe we have also, the body needs different things. So what does it mean at the end of the day? That thing out there, my saying it's delicious or not, I like it or not, is totally related to me, to my need for it. What makes it food is my hunger. Otherwise, a rock, I don't see it in the same way as what we call food. So we become aware of, the observer becomes self-aware, and our awareness increases, and then we realize that the ayah is not the thing sitting out there, because that thing out there is not sitting, it's not static, it's dynamic, and it's the relationship that we have with it that is the ayah. And the more we become aware of the relationship and how we relate to the world, the more we become aware of how come it tastes like this. Then في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم, from the outer world and therefore in the inner world. It is a step in higher awareness. It involves now who is tasting, how is it tasting, why is it tasting good now and not good another time, what is going on. If it were from the food, it wouldn't change, it would be constant. If it were from me, it wouldn't change. Or I would decide I will make everything that is on my table, I will make it delicious, but it's not in my control either. So what's going on here? And that's why we ask, and the windows onto Rububiyyah, onto whoever is sustaining me, whoever is making me taste this in one way or another, starts opening and revealing, those names starts revealing themselves onto us. So that end is not just two things, we have books and we have plates. They are totally unrelated. No, this is an and that is, and therefore. So here it says, reflecting, and in the beginning, it is going to start with reflecting on the world. If someone does not want to reflect on the world, okay, you can start reflecting on yourself, but reflecting on ourselves is also going to involve and the world, because we don't exist independently of the world. If we stay in ourselves without relating to the world, we're missing something as well. So here, it removes and melts your frozen heedlessness, because in the beginning, it's really frozen. It's really hard. And when it starts melting, now we become open to tackle that ego, that vulnerability that is like a raw wound. Don't touch me. You said something. Do you mean I'm bad? Do you think I'm not good? We become very defensive. Now it becomes like softer, and it burns the illusion of doubt and suspicion, because like the suspicions may not be conscious, but like God creates everything. We say it, but how much do we believe in it? Unless we have certainty, it means somehow, somewhere, there is a hidden suspicion. However, he's saying, however, when you reflect tafakkur fi nafs, it's like in the Quran, it says fi anfusikum, within yourselves. When you reflect within yourself, in your inner world, your feelings, your emotions, your faculties, your conscious, reflect deeply and thoroughly. He says in details. Because I looked at the Arabic as well. So in details, deeply, thoroughly. Because, why? The divine name, the inward, wants you, requires it. The perfection of art is seen in the details, and here ramification, I'm not sure. It's like in the details. However, when you reflect on the outer world, do so briefly, superficially. You don't need to go into the cells. For instance, you look at water, how we drink it, we wash with it, it rains, it gets absorbed by plants, animals drink it, it flows in rivers, it has huge waves and power as oceans. But if we start saying, I'm going to reflect on water, let's go into hydrogen, let's go into oxygen, let's go into the atoms, let's go into the protons and electrons, you forgot about water by the way. Unless at each step you are going back to the bigger picture, you are going to lose yourself. Because it will seem like, oh, water is oxygen, hydrogen. No, water is not oxygen. Hydrogen and oxygen come together to make a new being. It's like saying, oh, the car, it's just iron. Why are you paying all that money for it then? Iron and wires and this. No, it's a new creation. This house is just cement and stones and bricks. No, it's a house. Go get cement and I'll give you cement and bricks then. That's not a house. It requires something else. You're missing a lot in between. So that's why he's saying, when you reflect on the outer world, do so briefly, superficially, in the sense of do not, for you only need to understand the foundation upon which it is based. That is what the name, the outward, requires for the splendor of art becomes more evident and more dazzling when looked on and examined as a whole. So you don't want to lose the bigger picture. Water everywhere, acting everywhere. The moment you go to hydrogen or oxygen, okay, you get to another world. It's like you left the house and the architecture of the house. Now you are reflecting on bricks and rocks. Yes, you can, but don't think that you are going to understand the house that way. Hydrogen and oxygen, and you left one unknown, water, and now you became busy with two unknowns, and water is an unknown that is still, we have relationship with it. We drink it, we smell it, we feel it, but hydrogen and oxygen, we don't know. And then you go into electrons and protons, even more unknown. And if we go there with the assumption that this is going to explain water, then that is a huge mistake, because we already assumed disconnection from the source, from the creator. We already accepted the premise that hydrogen and oxygen are making water. So we already accepted so many shirky premises. If someone is already doing that in a lab, it's their job, they have to be very careful. Water is water, you look at it as water. You're looking at hydrogen, oxygen, you look at them at hydrogen, oxygen. When they come together and become water, then it's it's like someone says, cement and stones and bricks came and make a house. You say, no way, there is tadbir here, it's the 28 window. There is regulation here, there is management, there is building, there is ordering, there is wisdom, there is coming together with a known aim that is beneficial for many, many purposes. So there is definitely wisdom. And so you understand that he is al-wakil, as we saw in the 27th window. That's why he's saying, when you come to the outer world, do not lose yourself and go back into like a cause and effect, chain of cause and effect, because that's it. You already assumed, have false assumptions. Stay there, look at the bigger picture, because the splendor of art becomes more evident and more dazzling when you look at the whole house. The whole house is so beautiful. You say, where did this come? That's what science does. And you lose all your enthusiasm and excitement. And that's why lots of students don't like science. And I used to tell them, it's not like you don't like science. You don't like the way this materialist science is presenting things to us. And it's totally fitri. However, when you reflect within yourselves, then the perfection of art is seen in the details. Stay with it. It will tell you so many things. I'm seeing, I'm breathing, I'm not breathing. The more you stay there, you listen, you feel, and you start experiencing for instance, seeing the seer. I am made to see. This is the seer. This is a reflection, a manifestation of the name of God, Al-Basir, and a Sami' when I am hearing. And when I want to be heard, it's also a manifestation of a Sami'. Shall we carry on? Unless you have comments, please go ahead. Question as well, but if you have comments, something that came to your mind when you read this. Bismillah. Therefore, shall we carry on? Now, what he is talking about now, the consequences of not doing. If we if we insist on going into, for instance, details in the outer world.
Would you like me to continue?
Yes, please. Thank you.
The outer world is very spacious and has no shores. If you dive into it, you may drown. If you reflect in depth within your inner world, but make a brief and fast journey in the outer world, you can approach unity. Individual parts acquire wholeness, compounds become composites, and composites become unified. From this unity issues the light of conviction. From this unity issues the light of conviction of unity. If you only make a brief and superficial examination of your inner world while going into detail during your travels in the outer world, the diversity of things will engender confusion and doubt. This will strengthen your ego and ingrain heedlessness in you, developments that will make you inclined to naturalism and eventually away from the diversity of things and to misguidance. Oh God, do not include us among the misguided. Amen.
So here it's also the diversity and it's the plurality, kathra. Like there's so many things. When we look within ourselves, even if I look at my, like, I want to do something and then my hands and my whole arm, I want to reach something and my hand and my whole arm act. So they seem separate, but the more you pause and reflect and contemplate and be attentive, as he said in the beginning, pay attention, you realize that the whole body, each part seems separate, but they are actually all related. And through the self, you also start becoming aware of how things or people or animals or plants out that seem to be out there, they're actually all related to me. If you like someone or something, if something happened to them, even a plant, you're sad. You looked after it, you liked it, now you're wondering what's going on. You ask others, my plant, something. I see people asking, it's not happy, it's dying. What can I do? Like, it looks like out there. So it starts from within because the ruh unifies the body. And the ruh is like a divine law, amr, it's a command. And all the laws are also reflections of a divine command. So it's like a law. And that command is issued from the source that is everything issues from. So eventually we are all coming from the same source and we realize it. So just like the whole body is unified through that divine command, the ruh, everything in the outer world is also connected through the divine will, the divine, even through laws. Like I had some plants, they were dormant all winter, and now somehow they know it's spring. Like the temperature inside the house is the same, but now they started growing new leaves. And subhanallah, the ones inside and the ones outside, they all received the same command. So things are all related. They all become instances that increase our confirmation. Now they become means to confirm the unity, the unity of the source. But if he says, if you make a brief and superficial examination of your inner world, but then go into details in the outer world, then you lose the connections. You get into deeper and deeper, seemingly deeper, but deeper in matter, not in meaning. The more we are getting deeper in matter, the more we are assuming some meaning without questioning it. And then it looks like, oh, there are so many things, you know, water is hydrogen and oxygen, and those are atoms, and the atoms have a nucleus and protons and this and that. And if you look inside quarks, and it becomes like unending. It engender confusion and doubt, like it's coming from there, as if, remember the paragraph we read at the beginning? As if we are stuck in matter, whereas matter cannot do anything. Matter is moving and is being, exists through a meaning. It's like some, if you look at a text written in ink on a piece of paper, the message, this is an example that Imam Nursi gives in the 12th word. So it's the difference between the wisdom, the hikmah of the Quran, and the wisdom of, when he says philosophy, I put a footnote here. Philosophy means relying on one's reasoning without any help of divine revelation, like assuming that I can find it on my own. So he says, like, I'm not taking the example he gives, I'm taking the simpler example of a piece of paper, and you say this is a message. They say, oh, no, this is a piece of paper and some ink on it. And okay, I say, so they go and examine the piece of paper. And the piece of paper, all its chemical, it's made of this and that. And the ink, it's made of this and that. And even maybe the chemical formula for it, and how you make it, how you get it. And the words there. So if there is an O, they said there is a circular, 10 circular, how do you say? Not letters, because if they talk about letters, they would already know that there is script and meaning. Not script, not letters, just, how would you call it? Not graffiti, not scribbles, not English speakers.
Strokes.
Well, a stroke maybe, okay, but like something like forms, let's say, okay? So those strokes, those forms, they don't see them as, in my mind, stroke is already someone is writing, but they don't see it as someone is writing. They don't know it's writing. They don't know it's a message. They don't know it has meaning, as if it's T's. So there are few shapes, let's say, few shapes, this, and they measure the shape and the size and the form, and that's it. What they say is 100% correct, but it's also 100% misses the point, because in that description that is 100% correct, there is no talk about the real purpose of that piece of paper and those shapes on it. It is a message, and when you read the message, you can throw the paper. It's okay, because I have the message now in my mind. And imagine if the message is very crucial. They're telling you, come quickly, there is an emergency, you need to do this, it's urgent. And you are measuring and studying, that's what we study at school. That's what materialist science does. You missed the whole thing. You don't know that everything that is created is an ayah. An ayah means a sign. The letters in the alphabet are called signs. Why? Because they come together to make words, and words are meaningful. They convey, they come together, they're written there in order to convey meaning. So all the creation is here to convey meaning. And we say, if I use it, it's okay. If I can't use it, I don't care. So I take the piece of paper and use it for something else. And that's it. That study is totally useless. It's going into the details, but for no purpose, because it's unaware of the purpose. We talked about this before as well, but that's going into the detail in this sense. Losing the purpose. And say, when he says superficial, he's saying stay on the, like, don't go into one letter, or like stay, look at the connections, how they come together to mean something else. Or like the house, don't go into, it's made of bricks and stones and wood. Stay there. This is a house, there is a space here. How is the space designated? Someone who knows how our way of life, that the architecture is telling about a certain way of life. For instance, the text is telling, has a meaning. And also you can even, let's say you want to study the writing. You say, oh, this kind of writing, the strokes are very like decide. It's a person who is, whoever wrote this message is a decisive person, is neat, is this. Okay, still you are not only reading the meaning of the words, but you are also trying to extract some information about whoever wrote them. It's better than analyzing the paper and the ink. So in that sense, inshallah. Does it make sense, inshallah? Shall we carry on then?
Yes, inshallah.
I have observed that the more people are preoccupied with philosophy, the more their hearts suffer from spiritual diseases. I have also observed that the greater the spiritual disease of the heart becomes, the more people are preoccupied with rational sciences. Spiritual diseases lead to preoccupation with rational sciences, and preoccupation with rational sciences gives rise to spiritual diseases. I have also observed that the world has two aspects. Its first aspect is that outwardly it is partly and temporarily attractive, but inwardly it is eternally horrible. Its second aspect is that outwardly it is partly horrible, while inwardly eternally beautiful. The Quran draws attention to the second aspect, which relates to the hereafter. The first aspect is connected with eternal annihilation as opposed to eternal afterlife. I also have observed that existence based on the human ego ends in non-existence, whereas self-annihilation or annihilation of the ego results in existence and leads to the necessary existent being. If you desire existence and find it, try to annihilate your ego.
Thank you. So you see all these, there is more before and more after, but they are all related. At the end of the day, it's all related to the ego. And here I have a footnote about the philosophy. I just wrote that time. philosophy here does not refer to the discipline known as philosophy, but to all rational activities that rely solely on reason without help from divine revelation. Accordingly, whenever we're in a state of ghafla, our reasoning would be classified as philosophy, i.e. reasoning, thinking that assumes without questioning that things, and one ourselves included, exist in themselves in this connection of their maker and sustainer. And that will, philosophy is when causes seems to create effects. And when we start seeing that the order between causes and effect is our ayat, making the sustainer known with his beautiful names, then it's not philosophy anymore. And the two aspects, the first aspect looks to the ego, to
just before that,
yeah.
could about rational sciences, could we say
Yeah.
the same as philosophy, that it's not necessarily rationality, rational disciplines that's the problem, but a particular way of reasoning?
Yes. Again, it's like reasoning without questioning assumptions that are false. One of the assumptions is that we make is we forget that everything is transient and temporary. Yeah, and then we take it for granted. We assume that causes, that's why we call them causes. Things make other things. Cause makes effects, produces effect. Without the cause, there is no effect. We think it's a very strong argument. So these are the rational sciences here. And he's saying spiritual diseases lead, the more we have, spiritual disease means the ego does not want to surrender. That person who does not want to surrender, we are more inclined to be preoccupied with rational sciences or anything that is rational in this sense, of course, philosophy, without guidance, without divine guidance. And the more we're preoccupied with those sciences, and sciences does not mean that we have to be a scientist. It could be just arguments in our life. We hold on to some arguments and we don't want to let go. Why? Because there is a spiritual disease. But the more we do it, it becomes a vicious circle. It increases the spiritual disease. That's why. And how do we break this vicious circle? Through intention. The intention to surrender, the intention to accept that we are being made, we are given existence, we are brought into existence here and now, we are made to breathe, we are being given life here and now. We need to say yes, 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 yes to it. This is surrendering, this is Islam. When we are not doing this intentionally, unintentionally, we are saying, no, I exist on my own, I do whatever I want, it's my life and this and that. And the more we say this intentionally, the more it will become difficult to pray, to surrender to God, even part-time. So that's why Tawheed and Ibadah needs to be conscious, because if it's not conscious, it's not Ibadah. That's why even one of the shurut, the conditions of the validity of Salat, the daily prayer, the ritual prayer, is to be conscious that we are standing in the presence of God, at least even if it's not during the whole prayer, at least once. Because otherwise, if I'm not standing in the presence of God, then that's not ibadah. Ibadah, it means I'm worshiping. It means I love and adore and ask help from you alone. It can't be done unintentionally. And we have to be careful. If we take pleasure in those rational things, that's a red flag. Rational, not in like reasoning, but like reasoning in a shirki way, which is never, the reasoning may be correct, but the premises are never questioned. It's all based on false premises. It's true that water goes here and does this and does that, but yeah, can water do it in itself? No, you never ask that. I do this, I am like this, yeah, but is it true? Is it my life? Can I do anything? I can't even stand if I'm not enabled to stand. I can't even breathe. I can't even be in existence if I'm not given existence. How come we start like in Arabic they say tafalsuf. So falsafa itself in Arabic has the meaning of reasoning in a, how do you call the sophistai, the sophist way?
History?
The sophists, you know, that take something and make you believe into something else.
Sophistry, I think that's
Sophistry, yes, true. And so these are related, the two aspects are all again related to our inner attitude. When the ego claims ownership of itself and everything, then it takes itself as a unit of measurement and it only sees the outer world of the world, as we are told in the Quran. I think in Surah Al-Rum also. I think in Surah Al-Rum also we are told that they only have a knowledge of the outer world and they don't know the reality. So here it's temporarily attractive, but inwardly it is eternally horrible. So here horrible is not necessarily because it's ugly or bad. That is included too. But even the so-called beautiful and likable is horrible because it is transient. It doesn't last. And actually, if we ask ourselves, the more something is likable, the more it is painful to separate from it. If we think it's ours, but it doesn't, that's why we don't want to remember that the world is transient, because it's too scary. It's too, we can't bear it. Why can't we bear it? Because we are unaware that it's coming from somewhere and therefore it's going to the same source. When we are unaware of the source, then it's like somehow I got this thing, so I better hold on to it. But while I'm holding on to it, it disappears. How horrible is this? And the second aspect is the aspect that looks to the ruh, the heart, that looks to, therefore, to the Rabb, to Rububiyyah, to God, to the beautiful names of God. And so it's partly horrible because in this world, not everything is as we like. But beyond the likable and the dislikable, there is that world of the beautiful names, because the likable and dislikable, their interconnections are, that contrast is also an ayah, that reflects the beautiful, the eternal, beautiful names of God. That's why inwardly, when we look with the Ruh sees the inwardly eternally beautiful face of the world. And in the Quran, we are taught to find that wajh Allah. And we are told, كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام. So everything is transient except wajh Allah. Whenever you turn, there is wajh Allah, and wajh Allah is eternal, and it is beautiful, because the aspect of things that look to the most beautiful names of God is that aspect of wajh Allah. And it looks, of course, to akhirah, to eternity, to afterlife, beyond eternal annihilation. And therefore, if we want to find eternity, we'd better work on getting rid of the ego. How do we get rid of the ego? By not listening to it and listening more and more to the heart and the soul. The more the heart and the ruh are empowered, the more the ego, we won't pay attention to it. Just like now, it's the opposite. Because both the ego and the soul, they appear as, we feel them as feelings in the heart. Both. One is divine and one is not. It takes us away from the divine. That's why we say shaitan. Shaitan is anything that takes you away from God, away from haqq. We're not talking about like a small being there, I don't know, like a small devil like this. That's why I don't want to use the word. So anything that distracts us from those two feelings, the more we focus consciously on one, the more the other one will, even if it's there, it won't have an impact on us. It won't affect our life as much, because it will feel like far away. When we are in ghafla, the call of the soul seems like far away. So we need to practice more and more and more, pausing and listening. Samah. And more reflection within ourselves, inshallah. Shall we start the 28? Do we have time, or shall we leave it to next week, inshallah?
We might perhaps read it.
Yeah, we can
do that last time.
And leave it to next week.
Is anyone wanted to share anything on the window, or shall we just do it next time?
I'll make a short reflection that I sent to you by email just now to share on the screen if we have time, but we can leave it to next time. I'm completely fine with that. Whatever you would like to do.
Okay, let me pull it up and then we can decide.
It's sort of, it actually, it speaks a lot to what, I hope it does, to what Dr. Yamina was just teaching us about. Sort of a very, very basic reflection of the tools of witnessing in this window. And then whenever you're ready, I'll unmute myself again. and there may be mistakes in this. I was just trying my best to really try to understand this and try to get this process down, because for me it feels that it's a new kind of awareness that is a process that needs to be practiced over and over again. And so I'm here, I'm trying to practice this. And it really starts with my own story of reading the Quran for the first time, not yet having taken the Shahada, and coming across the verse, it's Surah 5, Ayah 104. Did I not put it there? I don't think, maybe I didn't. Okay, so I'll read it myself. I pulled it up on my screen earlier. But this is Surah 5, Ayah 104. And the first time I read this, and this is Muhammad Asad's translation. I wasn't, again, I was a Christian. I was just reading the Quran for the first time in an Islam 101 class. And I came to a part where it says, "For when they are told, come unto that which God has bestowed from on high, and unto the apostle, they answer, enough for us is that which we found our forefathers believing in and doing. Why, even though their forefathers knew nothing and were devoid of all guidance?" And this is, as I believe, referring to taqlid, which is blind imitation. When I, read this for the first time, I was actually having a crisis of faith of, what happens to people in other religions, and why is it that, God has ordained so many different religions, and what happens to people when they died. So this is what I was having this crisis of faith, and I was more, I was thinking, well, isn't it the same for Muslims? You were born into this religion. What have you done that's any different than anybody else in terms of whatever religion they were born into, whatever parents they had? And, I was praying for an answer, and an answer came when I met a group of people studying the Risale Noor here in Bloomington. And it's something that I've only found in Islam. And it's this process of witnessing, of learning to read the ayahs, which is something that I have never found in any other religion. It is something that only the Quran teaches us how to do. I'm trying to get back to our screen so I can read what I wrote. Okay, so
I'm wondering, shall we read the window one more time?
Oh, sure. Do you want to read the window, and then I'll read my reflection on it?
Yeah, Dr. Yamina, what do you think?
I think it would be good if we do it next week, because it's already almost Maghrib time here. It's almost 8. So we'll be more focused on what Rebecca would share, inshallah. Enaba, sorry.
Okay. Sure, we can do it next week. So yeah, that's where I'll leave it off. That this is something very, very special, and I think it's what for me, it was the process of becoming a real Muslim or doing real Islam. Was this is this what we are learning here? So it's so important, and it's the thing that makes Islam a message that is so different than any other, than just religion. So that's what I would talk about next time, inshallah.
I think it's important. That's why we need to have it from the start and have a conversation about it, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. Oh.
No, it's not something to be put at the end, very quickly pass.
Thank you. Okay, my son said that was very nice of you said. Thank you. All right.
Alhamdulillah.
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum. Is the class is gonna be at 6:30 again next Saturday? Yamina hocam.
It would depend. We were going to discuss it actually.
Yes. Okay. So then maybe we
This is a better time for me, but I mean, I'm just saying. But of course, majority will decide.
Inshallah.
okay. So inshallah, shall we make dua first and then discuss the timing?
Yes, inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين لله الفاتحة أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين نستغفر الله نستغفر الله العظيم الكريم الرحيم الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ونتوب إليه سبحانه آمين. I am stopping the recording, inshallah.
Okay, thank you. Jazakallah khair.